Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. I'm Dr. Ben. I'm a naturopathic doctor empowering you to heal yourself through whole food plant based nutrition, as well as mind body medicine. Thanks for joining me here today. And if you're new, welcome. If you're a return listener or viewer, welcome. If you'd like to support me, support the show, you can subscribe to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Wherever you're tuning in from, we're also streaming on Facebook. You can leave a comment and you can share if you're so called to share with someone in your life who can benefit from this sort of information. And also, new way to support me personally, Dr. Ben. I started a Substack. Excuse me. That's I guess you could say a writing platform. You can find me at benjaminalter.substack.com. No doctor in there, just benjaminalter.substack.com. And I am writing and sharing about stuff relating to health, of course, stuff relating to mindset, of course, and also kind of broadening and expanding what topics that I cover, maybe addressing things more culturally, and just aiming to provide new ways of thinking and viewing things, essentially sharing my insights, sharing my growth, and hopefully inspiring others to open minds and explore life from a new state of perspective. So the Substack is called Here and Now with Ben. And that leads me to the here and now with you on the Alter Your Health podcast. And thanks again for being with me. I'm excited today to explore TMS in greater detail, greater depth. I don't have my co-host, Dr. Susanna, with me. Last time we talked about TMS, tension myositis syndrome, was back in episode number 267. And 267 we recorded in January of this year. So almost a year ago, we talked about TMS. And we were talking about TMS then. Dr. Susanna was sharing her experience and insight in healing her back pain and really her understanding of TMS, tension myositis syndrome, which for those who are new to these letters, this phrase, this syndrome, this phenomenon, it's really the work of Dr. John Sarno. He's really the guy, the godfather, who started kind of connecting the dots between mind and body, I guess you could say. And that leads me to another prior episode of the podcast, a great one, I thought, which was episode number 74. That was nearly 4 years ago. Holy cow, we're getting old here. Nearly 4 years ago, we sat down and talked with Michael Galinsky, and he is a filmmaker who produced a documentary film about the work of Dr. John Sarno called All the Rage. So if you want to kind of dive in on your own, of course, listen to this podcast, hear my kind of takes on all this stuff and my personal experience with what's going on in my body, which, by the way, Dr. Sarno really focuses on back pain, and his first, I don't know if it was his first book, but it's definitely his most read book, is Healing Back Pain. And I always said, like, it's a shame that he titled the book Healing Back Pain, because it should really just be healing. Because what he's talking about, the phenomenon, the syndrome of tension myositis, afflicts every cell of the body, literally. So that being said, what science and research has found is that back pain just so happens to be one of the most common ways that TMS shows itself. I think we all know somebody, if not our own selves, who has experienced chronic back pain. And there's some interesting information that, like, the ways that TMS reveals itself, whether it's back pain or neck pain or knee pain or thyroid issues or digestive issues or what have you, there's a lot of cultural influence. For example, in the United States, in our culture, low back pain is the most common pain that anyone experiences in the body. Low back pain. I forget what the statistics are, but it's like something like 70% of people experience low back pain at some point in their life. And in other parts of the world, interestingly, at least I find it really interesting, fascinating, it's really like the neck that people experience pain in the neck. um, but neck pain is not so. I mean, a lot of people experience neck pain in all our culture, but I guess that's all to say that the places where pain manifests in the body is really culturally dependent and what is culturally normal and accepted. For example, it's really culturally accepted to say, "Oh, I've got some pain in my back." It's just like so normal. And in other places, I guess it's more normal to say, "Oh, I got some pain in my neck. Oh, I slept funny. Oh, fill in the blank. Oh, I've got pain in my gut. I've got like fill in the blank." We manifest pain, and pain reveals itself, and or physiologic imbalance reveals itself at different points in the body, depending on what is normal and acceptable, both in our psyche unconsciously and also culturally speaking. So that's kind of interesting. And before I dive in deeper to kind of explain TMS and really what's going on and my new insights, I just wanted to take a moment to share a little bit about kind of where I'm at with my podcasting journey. And I was just reflecting on the fact that this podcast, the Alter Your Health podcast, there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of different themes, of course. And a lot of podcasts, at least things that I tend to listen to, to be honest, I don't listen to all that many podcasts anymore. But there's so many different styles. And I was just like kind of reflecting and asking myself, what is my style? A lot of podcasts are more pre-scripted, and there's like all these like information that's so concisely outlined, and sometimes that can be really great to take it in and learn it as kind of like a master class and just download that information and take notes and just like a class. And then other podcasts are more like free flowy and just personal conversations and questions, and there's more space, and there's more blabbering, and there's more mumbling, and there's more fumbling for words and these sorts of things. And I think that there's a beauty in that authenticity. So I guess I'm finding myself, like, I used to think like, oh, I need to pre-script and get everything so clean and clear. But there's a beauty in authenticity. So I'm finding my balance with like having the information, of course, but also allowing the authenticity to be there, which I think is so important, at least in my own personal journey of authentic self expression. So thanks for being with me in the authentic fumbling and mumbling from time to time, as I am here and now in the present moment. Okay, now kind of shifting gears to talk about TMS, to talk about tension myositis syndrome. So, from one perspective, there's like so much rigidity and dogma, and I want to talk about what that dogma is. So TMS, tension myositis syndrome, like the message is that there's emotions that we're feeling as human beings. All human beings are subject to our emotions, right? I hope you know that. And emotions can be really difficult to feel, to express, to be with. And physical pain can also be very difficult, but is more accepted than deep, like, extreme emotional pain. So some of these emotions can be repressed and manifested as physical pain through this process known as tension myositis syndrome. So the emotions kind of make themselves felt in our bodies, and what's going on and I know this is like a woo-woo concept, but what's going on physiologically, kind of scientifically, that we can measure takes us back to the term tension myositis syndrome. So I like to boil all emotional pain, I guess you could say, down to stress. Stress is really just, whether it's rage, whether it's sadness, whether it's anxiousness, regardless of the flavor of emotion, kind of the parent concept of what's going on is stress. And stress psychologically is experienced in the body physiologically, of course. And like the body just knows stress. So psychologically, we can have all these different flavors of stress. Like I tend to do this, I tend to feel this, but physiologically, stress is stress. And we know that, we've talked a lot about the different branches of the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, and how, stress, a dominant state of stress amplifies the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system and kind of throws off our physiology in so many ways that way. It throws off our immune system, throws off our endocrine system and our hormones, and also throws off the nervous system, which innervates all of the millions of muscles. I don't know if it's millions of muscles. I get millions of muscle cells, or really trillions of muscle cells in the body. So our sympathetic nervous system stress activation is going to send signals to all of our muscles. And depending on, and this is getting into, I don't want to get too deep into the physiology, but most somatic muscles, most muscles of our body, when they receive a stress signal, they contract, they clench down, they constrict. And of course, the constriction of muscle is also what leads to things like high blood pressure. And the constriction of the muscles around the vascular system, increases the pressure in our cardiovascular system, and we can measure that through high blood pressure. But also the constriction of muscles constriction of muscles throughout the rest of our body leads to the constriction of what are known as neurovascular bundles, which is essentially like a bundle of vascular system, a bundle of circulation, but also a bundle of nerves that goes to like every part of our body. So that kind of can get clenched down, and we decrease the flow of oxygen to tissues. We decrease the flow of nervous system input into tissues. And the end result is ischemia, the decreased oxygen supply to that tissue, a little inflammatory response, and as a result, on a global picture, pain. So that's really what's going on with TMS: stress, constricting blood flow to our somatic tissue, and resulting in decreased oxygen supply, resulting in pain. And you can think like, okay, well, if I have pain in my leg because of decreased oxygen supply, then all I need to do is find ways to increase the oxygen supply, increase the blood flow. So that's where we think of things like, in our naturopathic realm of thinking, I think of things like hydrotherapy. I think of things like, alternating hot and cold. That's hydrotherapy. I think of things like, increasing circulation through optimizing blood flow through antioxidant, vitamins and minerals and nutrients, hydration, and so on and so forth. But the fact is that there's only so much we can do therapeutically, hydrotherapy. There's only so much we can do with nutritionally to offset the chronic stress that is the root cause of the issue. So, stepping back a little bit, our goal as healers, we're all healers, you and I, every one of us, we're all healers. Our goal is to understand what the root cause of our ailments is and address our symptoms at the root so that we can heal. Otherwise, we're just kind of managing symptoms. So, this is why TMS is such an important thing to talk about from my perspective, is because, you could look at pain, and say, oh yeah, this pain is a result of decreased oxygen supply to the tissue. So so we want to increase the oxygen supply of the tissue by, doing a hot pack or laser therapy or this or that, and so on and so forth. But what's causing the decreased oxygen supply to the tissue? We need to address that. And then you could say, okay, well, it's muscular tension, so we need to take muscle relaxers. We need to take an Epsom salt bath. We need to stretch. We need to do yoga. we need to do all of these things. And it's like, yeah, that all those kind of therapeutic strategies can be helpful to manage the symptom, but what's causing the tension in the first place? And that always traces its way back to the mind. It's always tracing its way back to stress of the nervous system, imbalance of the sympathetic nervous system, and in a word, or three words or three letters, TMS. So TMS, as I see it, is the root cause of essentially everything. Essentially everything. And unfortunately, we can't go to a doctor and be like, okay, treat my TMS, give me a TMS relieving procedure or pill or supplement protocol. Let me follow some practice or breath work technique or do something to take away the TMS. Taking away the TMS comes from how we live and our level of understanding of our mind, our bodies, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with stress, our relationship with our thoughts. So it truly is taking responsibility for our health, addressing the root cause of our pain and dis-ease is truly taking responsibility for our health. And that is looking in the deepest direction that we can, the being most inquisitive and compassionate and curious that we can with ourselves, which again always leads us back to the mind, always leads us back to TMS. So that's where I'm at. I'm at just I'm in the place of getting curious and inquisitive with myself because I have TMS has found a way to manifest itself with me. And for those who don't know, like, I feel like I've been super blessed with my health, so far in my life. I, by the way, just turned 35. Happy birthday to me a couple days ago. So I'm 35 years young. I do feel super young. I do feel like, I guess I can say that I don't feel my age at this point. I feel super great. Haven't experienced any quote unquote chronic conditions. I do have a tendency, for those who don't already know, to like have acute things come up and, hurt this and that. And by the way, when you go over the handlebars of your bike and strain your wrist or this or that, or, injury, so on and so forth, that clearly isn't TMS, right? The exacerbation, and as that becomes chronic, then it does make its way into TMS territory, but acute things are not TMS. So we need to kind of get that out of the way, right? Real pain as a result of injury is not like generated from psychological stress. However, that being said, an injury can kind of trigger, so to speak, a TMS phenomenon because, if when I go over the handlebars of my mountain bike and I hurt my wrist, the wrist is in a state of acute injury for, maybe a couple days, and then the acute inflammatory response starts to, kind of take care of things. And especially when I've got acute remedies and therapeutics on board, like hydrotherapy, like, the natural anti-inflammatories, like a foundation of whole food, plant-based nutrition, et cetera, and so on, then that's resolving itself. But for some people, going over the handlebars of the mountain bike leads to this chronic wrist injury. And it's like, okay, the wrist is healed. All of the all of the things that kind of occurred as a result of that injury are quenched and healed and taken care of, but we still experience chronic pain. And that's especially true for people, again, back to the back. People have a car accident and like whiplash, or, this, or lifting something heavy and kind of pulling a muscle, that kind of trigger acute event then somehow leads to, months or even years of chronic pain. And there's this little mind virus that makes its way into our head, and kind of a way of self-preservation, kind of keeping our emotions repressed. Because remember, that's really what TMS is. It's kind of the emotions kind of staying put so that we can feel the pain in our bodies rather than, subjecting ourselves to the emotional agony and discomfort. So out of self-preservation, we manifest these chronic symptoms, and then this mind virus says, oh, this back pain, this wrist pain, this knee pain, whatever, it's due to that accident or injury that I had months ago, years ago, etc. And we keep on going back to the past. When in reality, it's manifested TMS, right? So, I think it's just so interesting. Like, why are emotions so difficult to feel? And this is another, it's like, and I wrote about this, by the way, back in my Substack, benjaminalter.substack.com, that new endeavor that I'm on there. Why are emotions so difficult to feel? It's like pain obviously can be excruciating, and whenever we have pain, generally we also have emotions like, oh shoot, like woe is me, feel so angry, feel so frustrated, feel so sad, I'm in pain. So whenever we have, at least in my experience, and correct me if your experience is different, that's totally okay. But when I'm in physical pain, I am also in emotional pain because I don't like being in physical pain. I feel sad, I feel depressed, I feel mad at myself, I feel mad at the world, I feel frustrated, whatever, fill in the blank. So why can't I just feel the emotions? Why can't I allow myself to feel the fullness and the totality of the emotions with that, and while giving my physical body like a break? So it's a curious thing, right? And I think the fact is that we are multi-dimensional beings, right? But sorry that I'm a little all over the place. What I wanted to talk about really my the main intention for this conversation was to address like the TMS dogma. Because if you were to, I know if Dr. Sarno, if I were to go to you, I'm sure you would tell me one thing and I probably wouldn't want to hear it. I probably would in fact disagree with you. I'm sure people who really practice TMS medicine, I think there are a handful of people out there who are TMS practitioners. Here's what they will say. They will say, it's TMS, your pain. First of all, they'll rule out any sort of, tumors or malignancies or real serious life-threatening health conditions that might result in these sort of chronic pain syndromes. So they'll rule that sort of stuff out. And then they'll say, okay, it's TMS. So what you need to do is know that it is all in your mind. Know that that's where the answer is. So you should avoid going to a yoga class. You should avoid stretching. You should avoid going to a chiropractor. You should avoid acupuncture. You should avoid anything physical that addresses your body from a physical perspective. They might even say that you should avoid taking, nutritional supplements or vitamins, and maybe even avoid eating an anti-inflammatory diet, quote unquote, because that is still buying into this idea that there's something physiologically out of balance, when in fact what's really out of balance is our psychology. So really the TMS strategy is to go all in into the, don't want to say it's all in your mind, but it's all stemming from mind, to go all into the mind component, and to, in some ways, kind of neglect the physiology, or neglect the body, neglect the muscles, neglect the bones, neglect the ligaments, and recognize that the pain is generated from this tension myositis syndrome. And if we can just ease up the tension emotionally, just kind of embrace that, just kind of give ourselves the space to be with that fact, then that's enough to heal. And I agree that that might be enough to heal. I agree that going all in is never a bad thing. But also, I agree that it's important to address the multidimensional nature of our being and body. So we are not just a soul, we are not just a psyche, we are not just mind. We are also flesh and blood. We also have cells that require nutrients. We also have muscles that require being used and stretched and nourished. We have physical components that need physical nutrition and stimulation and nourishment. So my perspective is to not be so, at least the perspective I'm playing with, and I'll keep you guys posted on my healing. By the way, it's a knee, not that that really matters, but it's my right knee that got kind of aggravated as a result of a run. Even though that triggering event, I know that I didn't do anything wrong. I ran the same thing. I know that I'm fine. So anyways, my strategy is to not be dogmatic and rigid, but to continue stretching, continue doing yoga, continue taking Epsom salt baths, continue, I've been enjoying bigger amounts of ginger and turmeric in my morning smoothies just to kind of really give my body some anti-inflammatory nutrients to work with. I'm really flooding myself from all directions. That's kind of my intention, rather than just completely neglecting the physical and going all in on the mental, emotional. Um, I I think that I am all in on the mental and emotional. I know for certainty that things are being generated from that level, but that doesn't mean that I can't stretch my muscles. It doesn't mean that I can't relax in yoga positions. It doesn't mean that I can't take an Epsom salt bath and give myself that kind of space. So that's my strategy. And so I don't know if there's anyone who has been really entrenched in the, I'm using the dogma word just because I don't know of a better one. But if there's anyone who has been entrenched in TMS dogma and thinks that I'm wrong, I'm totally open to hearing like your perspective. And I understand that the perspective is, if we do see ourselves going to chiropractors, if we do see ourselves going to acupuncturists to kind of remedy and manage symptoms from that physical level, then we're fighting the fact that things are being generated from the level of mind and emotion. But in my being, in my truth, in my body, I feel as though, and again, this could be the mind virus at play, but I feel as though I can nourish myself on that physical component. In fact, I went to see my chiropractor yesterday just as like an assessment, just to move things, just to get things going. By the way, he said, "There's nothing wrong. It's all in your head," half jokingly. And I said, "Oh, trust me, I already knew that." I already knew that. Thanks for reaffirming that. It is all in my head. But I knew it wasn't a meniscus thing. I knew it wasn't an ACL thing or MCL thing or PCL thing. I knew all the ligaments and cartilage and tendons. Well, tendons is another issue. Tendons are, by the way, an extension of muscles. So tendonitis, so to speak, is kind of a tense, inflamed muscle, which kind of that's like TMS. In any event, I feel as though, and my strategy and approach to all this is to be all in from all sides, with the ultimate knowing that the real root cause of pain and discomfort is on the mental, emotional level. So that's that. So back to the kind of the wrapping up this conversation, this message. To me, that's really what healing is all about. Taking responsibility. And there's only one person to do this. Trust me, I wish there was someone that I could go to right now and just like take the pain away. Just take the pain away. Just take the edge off. And things are moving in the right direction. I know that. But it's just so interesting. Even despite all my knowing about self-healing, self-responsibility, natural modalities and whatnot, despite all my knowing and education and so on, I still find myself feeling like, is there anyone out there that can help me? Is there anyone out there that can help me? And the fact is that, yeah, there might be people who I can talk to and give me insight, but the ultimate helper, the ultimate healer is me. And that's not the case for me. That's the case for you too. That's is the case for you too. And it's a matter of just taking total and complete responsibility for your health at the level of mind, emotion, and nutrition and body and lifestyle and all of those kind of things as well. So the people and resources and materials outside of yourself, the way that we can relate to them is sources of information and inspiration to ignite and trigger that self-healing response and those self-healing actions that are happening inside of your body, inside of your mind. So that's really, the message that I'm taking away with myself here and today, here and now. And I hope that if there's anyone struggling with chronic pain and symptoms in your body, I hope that you can get curious as to the root cause of those symptoms. Again, in the root cause at one level, it's like, okay, yeah, there's muscle tension, there's pain. By the way, also, most of the time, back to the back, back pain is where most people experience it. So imaging and X-ray and MRI is so common. And also what's so common on imaging is to see anatomic anomalies, a bulging disc, stenosis, a little scoliosis, whatever, what have you, all those kind of anomalies. Those things, bulging discs and, even torn ligaments or strained ligaments, even inflammation, whatever else is going on in the spine or in any other part of the body for that matter, whatever anomaly is observed does not in and of itself cause pain. That's not the cause of the pain. So it's so common to look at the imaging, to look at the labs, to look at this or that, and then just kind of treat things and address things and stay looking at things at that, I'll say, superficial, physical, mechanistic level. And yes, again, look, address stuff from that angle. For example, if there was scoliosis, then I would seek to do the exercises and postures and positions to kind of strengthen and balance the muscles and bring my body into more symmetry and alignment. But also I would get curious as to what is causing that? What is causing the asymmetry of muscles? What is causing the whatever is going on, the tension, what is causing the asymmetry of hormones? What is causing the imbalance of inflammatory markers or the suppression of the immune system? What is causing that? And sure, you might say, okay, well, it's a zinc deficiency, it's a magnesium deficiency, it's a vitamin C deficiency, it's this muscle being too strong and that muscle being too weak. Yes, treating things there, but don't stop there. Don't stop there. Keep going to get curious, what's causing that. And ultimately, we find ourselves again in the realm of mind. And there we can find all the answers. And there we can find really the peace, the true nature that we are, and all the wisdom that we have access to all the time. And it's a good place to be, or at least if we don't find ourselves there, if it's still such a conceptual thing to consider embodying peace, at least we can consider the possibility of moving in that direction inch by inch, just nudging ourselves back into alignment of our true nature, and take the zinc supplement and maybe do the magnesium stuff. But we can do that stuff without stopping there, without also acknowledging the fullness and totality of our being. That's my rant and story for today. And by the way, in terms of future episodes of the podcast, I will certainly be sure to keep you posted on my healing journey. Yes, I will. And I think that I'm on the right track. I'm doing all the things. And if you are looking for more support with your health, your healing journey, you're looking to have that information, to gain those insights, to be on that track that you are confident with, contact us, reach out, send me an email, info@alter.health. Go to www.alter.health to learn about our services, the Thrive on Plants program, which really delves into nutrition. I'll say this out loud for myself to hear and for others to hold me accountable. Also, in the beginning phases of creating another program that is addressing things at a deeper level. So if you're interested in that, reach out and we can get you into that program as soon as it's available. But sending you all blessings of health and healing, and hope you guys are enjoying the start of or the continuation of the holiday season and the ending of the year. Just another quick announcement. As far as next year is concerned, 2023, we're starting things off with a whole food plant-based challenge. Really taking things to the next level in 2023. And also starting January 13th is a Friday. That'll be the first meeting for our 2023 winter cleanse. So all the information that you could ever want and need will be available at www.alter.health. So we will keep you posted, and also on this podcast as well. Thanks again for being a listener, a watcher, a subscriber, and thanks for sharing this to anyone who you feel would benefit from hearing this information. And also, thanks for subscribing to my Substack. I don't know why I can't say that. BenjaminAlter.substack.com, where I'll be sharing more insights on this level, but also more broadly. All right, guys, peace and love. Till next time.